The Orioles, when they look good, Adley Rutschman, 5 hits. And of course, their owner really stepped up for us as well. John Angelos giving us some nice quotable content as usual. So we've got some comments to run through from him. So this is from January, quote, "I'm very transparent. I'll take you down on the third floor and I'll show you the financials of the Orioles. I'll show you the governance of the Orioles. I'll show you everything you want to know." That was when he had that forum, and then reporters started asking him questions, and he was trying to say, like, this isn't the time for it, even though that's how they got the reporters. And you should Google that. There's great articles on The Athletic. Dan Connolly, who covers the Orioles. This is February. Quote, "When I say something like I'm going to sit down with you guys, explain the business from my perspective, I'm going to do it." Okay, let's fast forward again. Can we get to March now, please? "Yesterday, when asked about signing young players to extensions, quote, they're going to do what they can within the system that they're in. Does that mean extensions? Absolutely. I would hope so. But you got to go with the system you're in. It's much, three muches, tougher to be in the baseball system than in the football or basketball system." I feel terrible for John for owning the Baltimore Orioles, Ken. So he addressed that. And then also, of course, as he's promised 90 times to open up his books, he has not done that. And I think he actually went back at someone and said, like, open up your books. I think, like, your newspaper report, open up your books.
He
like,
did. He
this
said
needs to be
that.
called out.
He said that to the Baltimore Sun, that, hey, you guys aren't opening your books. Why should I open my books? Well, the Baltimore Sun wasn't the entity that volunteered to open their books, right? And that's my old paper. And we covered John Angelos back when I was still there in the mid 90s. And let's just say we could foresee a lot of things that have happened. And a lot of the things I wrote about the Angelos family, I took a lot of heat for, especially the dad, mostly the dad. But we're seeing it all play out. Let's put it that way. And I don't understand why he is talking at all along these lines, why he is so defensive, why he is so aggressive in certain ways, and why he is complaining about the system in which he's in. If he doesn't like it, if any owner doesn't like it, you sell your team. Get out. And you'll make a profit. You'll do really well. In fact, the Orioles were bought for 173 million in, I believe it was 1993. And I remember that day as a columnist for the Baltimore Sun, I wrote, and this proved to be one of my worst columns ever. 173 million? They paid 173 million. They won't have enough money to buy players. Well, now they're worth like 2 billion. So they're doing okay. Every team is doing okay, and the Orioles are doing most okay because they haven't paid players really very well for several years now. So here they are. They're in the middle of what looks like their ascent. And yesterday was a good day for them, no question. Adley Rutschman is going to be a star. Connor Henderson looks like he's going to be a star. But the owner, or the president of the team, the CEO, John Angelos, he's saying these things, and it does no one any good. It doesn't do his reputation any good. It doesn't make him more popular with fans when he says the Baltimore Sun should open its books. No, we all get what's going on here. So there's not much more I can say about it. There's not much more I want to say about it. I don't even know that it's really worthy of more discussion. He is who he is, and he can run his team however he sees fit. But at the same time, I believe the Baltimore Orioles are doing just fine financially, as are many, many, many other teams.
Here's the key follow for me, because you're right. I mean, yeah, we can dunk on comments, but for fans, this is what's important, especially as the season is starting. Last year, team looked really good, surprisingly good. They trade off a couple of their players, a couple of their key players, basically indicating like, nah, not this year. Like, I know we're playing well, but not this year yet for us to make the playoffs because we haven't suffered enough. Now we go to the offseason. Basically didn't do anything. Now we go to this season, day one. They look good. Adley looks awesome. You have the owner the day before or on opening day basically saying like, until we're like the NBA or the NFL, then we're probably just not going to spend much. As a fan, I'm extremely heated now because I'm worried that our star players that were home growing are not going to get extended. We're not going to make major trades, from, especially if it's a player that costs a lot at the deadline. Like, I'm worried about the state of the team playing to its best ability, because they basically said instead of being like the Astros now, we're going to try and be like the Rays, which is a completely different game plan. So is that what we should read between the lines for in this case?
Scott, actually, I think you're hitting the nail on the head. And I wrote about this in spring training. At some point, it's nice to have the number one farm system. It's great to have all this young talent, and they do. They are in a great position. But to get to the next step, they're going to have to spend money at some point. Now, I thought it was going to happen this offseason as well. And they didn't really do that. As you said, they kind of just patched a little bit and did a few minor upgrades, but didn't spend in a big way. Kyle Gibson, the trade for Irvin, these are not big moves. At some point, maybe it's this deadline, they're going to be faced with a position where they've got a shot. And either in that particular time, you take that shot, you trade young talent for a high priced player. Let's say it's Corbin Burns, just as an example. Or do you sit back again and do nothing? And extensions are another part of this. Now, maybe Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson don't want to sign extensions, which is their every right. But you've got to take a shot like other teams do. Look, the Guardians just did with Andres Jimenez. So that to me is the test for this organization. They can talk all they want and talk justifiably about where they are and how much they are on the rise and how exciting this is to have all this young talent. But there comes a threshold that you've got to cross, and it's a financial threshold. I'm not saying a set number of dollars. What I'm saying is you've got to at some point invest more heavily in your team to make it that much more competitive and to realize the potential of that club. Otherwise, you're wasting these guys in their affordable years. And I don't know that Orioles fans want to see that happen. So if I were an Orioles fan right now, I'd be watching very carefully to see how this team conducts itself from here going forward, and then make my judgments then. It's not as simple as saying, hey, we've got great young players. That's nice. It's good. It's really good. And they should have good young players as high as they've drafted for the past several years. But again, one more time, at some point, you've got to take the next step, and that involves spending money.